Hey guys, we're continuing on with the C5 Torga from Semogue. It is showing you not very much splay because I've had it soaking for a few minutes. Looks like I need to clean off my camera lens there. So let's do that right quick. You don't need to look at that anymore. And then we also have from yesterday, the vintage Gillette New. This is an open comb razor, and it's the short comb version. It did really well yesterday with my old Nacet. I'm going to be using Cosmo. As you can see, it's the beta 4.2 version. So this one I do have the version number. Some of my pucks I transferred to another container and I forgot to record the version number. Sometimes it makes a little bit of a difference. It's all good. I really like the scent on this one. I can, ever since I opened up the tin, I can feel it. I can smell it wafting around. So it looks like 246 is the current use count. So 247 today. Here's my 3 dots to show you it's the same Gillette Nacet. We also have the same injury down here where I bent the blade at about use 225. Now the new is a nice razor because we'll put it with the dots facing up. That will be facing toward the handle. And the new has this great alignment system, like so many of the vintage Gillettes, like some of the Techs and stuff, with 4 posts and then of course a rail in the middle too, so you really can't get a misaligned blade with this razor. And there we go. And this is a vintage piece and it doesn't cost too much on eBay, and I really enjoyed it the last shave. I can't wait to try it with a kind of a fresh blade and some different blades. I'm finding that I'm enjoying it now that I've been through a lot of other razors, because it clamps down on the blade really close to the edge, even from the bottom, and that's kind of uncommon to get that close with some of the vintage razors. So I'm looking forward to trying it out with a bunch of different blades after I hit my mark. At my 300 mark with the Nacet. I hope to get there. All right, so with the Cosmo, Saponificio Varesino is the brand, and I like so many of their soaps. I think this is kind of it's a cologne type scent. It's got a distinct, I think it's a pear note to it, and I like it. And so I've had it soaking in some water. And so let's load up and shake most of the water out of this guy. He's still young, maybe 8 uses on him. But I think he's starting not to kill lathers, and young boars do that sometimes. It's typical. And I think when he's done with the shave, he's splaying out pretty well. So I think we're going to be in good shape. Let's do a 30-second load. And if I start at 55, then I go to 25. Instantly we get some froth. Now I normally don't pre-soak or bloom my pucks, but this is a truly hard one. It's triple milled, that sort of thing. It's not like a Stirling or Barrister, man. Oh man, the puck is spinning. I need to switch my swirling tactics. I'm going to go to 30. And there we go. Because it was spinning, that makes your, well, let's do a little bit more. Try to get a equivalent of a 30-second load, because the spinning really keeps you from picking up soap on the brush. So that's what it looks like. Hopefully that's an equivalent to a 30-second load. And now you can see the kind of proto lather that came up. This is a vegan soap. As long as the soap performs, I don't care if it's vegan or not. And these guys perform pretty well. Very good for a vegan soap, and just pretty well in general. All right, so I'm gonna get my face wet. Using cool water. About a day's growth, maybe an hour or two over that. And let's use my Dollar Tree Santa Fe from Royal Norfolk to whip up the lather. So I think I was interrupted. The soap is not like a crope. You can't make a dent in it by pressing in it with your fingers. So it's not like Stirling or Declaration Grooming, Barrister and Man, you know, that sort of thing. Those are great soaps, but I never bloom or soak those beforehand. You just don't need to. It helps with the load time, is my thought process. Just shortens the load time. You can come at it with a wet brush if you want, and have it be a dry puck. Maybe you might just have to load a little bit longer if you don't want to soak it. Okay, I was just integrating what we had in terms of water inside the brush with what we just stirred up as far as soap. And so that's as good as it's going to get. So now let's start adding some water. This brush doesn't have any kind of contouring inside that's related to trying to stir up a lather. It doesn't have any rocks glued to the bottom or quarters or anything like that. And it does just fine, mainly I believe because the bottom is not very flat. It has a very small flat area, but it's got these corners that come up, and that causes the bristles to flex, and I believe that does the job very nicely. Notice we've got 2 teaspoons of water in the brush now. I'm sorry, in the lather now. And it's looking very nice. So with two teaspoons in, I'm going to go ahead and add in a third. Maybe after that we'll start slowing down and not quite add in a teaspoon at a time. Yeah, it's got some woody notes in there too, I think. But mainly it's kind of just a light and fresh cologne with maybe a slight fruity bent to it. If you weren't thinking about it, you may not even be able to pick out the pear. Yep, getting even better. I'm going to do 1 more teaspoon because of the way it looks. So now we've got 4 in it. Let's start. Yeah, see, there we go. You see the contours, how they've changed? They're getting more rounded. You can see that glisten. Some soaps glisten when they get hydrated, some don't. Hydrated properly. So we can pull it all down to the bottom, kind of lift half of it out, see what comes with it, see what stays behind. Look at that wall there, it's kind of keeping its shape. I think we may add another half teaspoon here. So this is an Italian soap. It definitely has an Italian name, Italian sounding name. That looks pretty good right there. See, look, the wall collapsed on itself. Those are some landmarks to look for as you mix up your lather. For this base, at least, there are some bases where you don't want to get so far as the wall collapsing there, because it's one that you might need to run a little drier. I have some of those type of soaps as well, but the good soaps, this is usually where I take it. Now, of course, you may want to memorize those kinds of attributes and avoid them. Try to stop before it gets there if that's your preference, if you like it a little on the drier side. All right. Maybe you don't want to mix quite as long as I do. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more water on my face and we'll go ahead and lather up. See how this brush feels today. Splay is pretty easy. The tips are soft, but it's a smaller splay, a more focused splay than most of his Semogue brothers. So many of them are lighter, more flow through, and a little bit less of a scrubby feel. But this is it is a soft scrub, so I don't feel like I'm doing any, exfoliation with this brush. Lather feels great. And this guy's young, and some of the tips have split. A few of them have, and so it's going to get softer as that happens. Definitely no prickle or anything like that for this brush. Even when it was really young, it didn't have any of that. Working the lather in, we want that slickness to kind of bond with our skin. When you first put on the lather, it kind of stays on top of the skin. So you've got to put a little time into it, not too long, but you got to get them to connect so that you get a great comfort, great shave, and really nice lubrication, because that's where the protection comes in. Now this lather still needed some water, because it's looking a lot better now that I'm adding a little bit more creamy. And I think we are ready to go. It's good stuff there. And I'll go ahead and add another teaspoon. So boy, I think we've got 6 teaspoons in there now. Didn't I tell you I put 4 in at one point? So this is definitely a soap, and my computer's down, and so I couldn't look at my notes for this soap base to try to get a good picture. Oh yeah, that feels great as I rinse my fingers here. Very slippery. It's not a buttery kind of slippery that you get, or a fatty one with maybe a tallow type soap, but it's very slick. All right, I'm going to start. So we're getting just a tiny, tiny bit of tugging. It's not uncomfortable, but it is something, you know, your average shaver would probably say, hey, it's time to switch this blade out. So this razor seems to be working well with the blade. I'll just, yesterday I kind of had a crappy lather because I was testing out a soap and it didn't work very well. So I'm glad to try the new again. And we'll see how he does. A little half rinse there. Water out of the beard. Show you this lather now that I've added another teaspoon of water to it. I've got tons of lather here. I guess I don't need to do the 30 seconds. Look at that. It's gorgeous. This is exactly how I like this particular soap base. Matter of fact, I believe I nailed the hydration here. Just as a soap base in general. Don't need to scrub very much since we did that on the first pass, so I'll move on pretty quickly. I just wanted to give the brush just some work to try to help break it in. Agitation. I know that I've said for a while that I thought that wet and dry cycles was one of the best ways to break in a borer, but talking with somebody recently and talking about his brushes versus mine, because we have a couple in common, how many uses they've had, how broken in they seem, and it might just be the agitation is better. Than just wet dry cycles. So in that sense, if you've got a borer that you want to break in, just use it every day. Try that. So that's why I switched to this Torga, using it several days in a row, because I just got it in and I'd like to see what it's going to be like a little quicker than if I have it in a large rotation. It'll be a while before we know anything, right? I did feel some stubble after that first pass, and so it's not as efficient as, you know, a young blade, but it's not a young blade, right? All right, well, that went really well, comfortably. And now my face feels nice and smooth, so that took care of any of those kind of outliers that would feel now. So now we're focusing on just We got most of the growth off, almost all the growth off. It's just a little bit of stuff because we're talking about reduction here gradually, not knocking everything down in one pass if we can. At least that's my personal goal, guideline. So third pass now, and I've got another 5 passes of lather in the bowl, so why not go get some more lather? It does have a nice luxurious feel. There'll be plenty of lather to kind of evaluate and review at the end of the shave. All right, man, this is good stuff. All right, I'm using cold water today, and it is hard. I do have hard water at this location. You know, I may have an upcoming move. And so I'm curious about the water hardness, you know, at the new place. So cross grain, for me, this is cross grain pass. There are still some wet shavers out there, and even some famous ones who give the impression that cross grain for your cheeks is always like this or like this, but that's only if your hair grows straight down from the top to the bottom. There are some people who have facial hair that grows like toward their ears or from their ears toward their chin, different directions. And so for them, a cross grain pass is going to resemble more of a vertical notion. So anytime we say across the grain, against the grain, with the grain, we're talking about the grain and not north-south. The grain being the direction of hair growth. So if, and then necks, I mean, some people's necks, it starts here and goes up toward the chin, whereas mine comes down from my cheek, swirls over this way, and then comes, makes a slight turn right here and kind of heads toward the bottom. And so a cross grain pass for me involves several different directions as I move across that line. And then over here it comes down, moves forward slightly, and then trails off in the same direction at the very end. Well, that's 3 passes. I bet that's going to be a good shave. Now, I definitely see one hair that needs some treatment. So why don't we just do a neck only pass? Feels nice and slick on my face. The lather does. The rinses feel good. It is easy to rinse off though. It's pretty quick to rinse. That might be a nice aspect for some people. And now the strategy pass here. Cross grain, but from kind of the opposite direction as the first 2 passes. Now over here can just be kind of anything. It's a pretty easy grain right here. And if you want to go into an area again, you can reach under the guard, grab some of the lather from your razor. Better to do that than to overshave, shave too much on an area without the proper hydration. All right, I bet that's got it. There's a couple little guys right there. Yeah, I just took a little bit of focused targeting there. It looks good. What a great shave. Nice close shave and just 3.5 passes. I'll do a full rinse now. And with the lightness, a slight zestiness to this soap. It's like I told you, it's kind of a fresh cologne type with a slight fruit twist to it. But you may not even notice that. I think it might pair really well with Sharp Dressed Man, which also has a little bit of zestiness to it. It's the Green Irish Tweed clone from, what was it, Creed? It did Green Irish Tweed. No, I don't think so, because GIT has been around for a very long time. Green Irish Tweed is overdone sometimes, but it's so popular, kind of like Aventus. Stirling's Executive Man is the Aventus dupe, while Sharp Dressed Man is the Green Irish Tweed inspired fragrance. Slight differences, it's not an exact copy, but just smell great. And Green Irish Tweed, I think, is one that was even worn by somebody like Cary Grant or somebody like that, Clint Eastwood, that sort of thing. Sometimes I really liked it in the beginning, and I definitely like it in terms of a soap that's where the scent is around you while you're working. Sometimes it might be a little overdone in the post-shave department. Like, I don't think I would probably need a GIT splash that would last for a couple of hours, But I definitely like it as a balm. It's pretty calm. The scent is not super strong. So, all right. And what I think is maybe there are some versions of it that tweak in the wrong direction, and so it almost messes with the whole thing for me, because it reminds me of the one it's bent in a weird way. All right, let's take a look. Now that my face has got some healing on it, let's take a look at this lather. It is very hydrated. Squeeze out the stuff from the brush too. We've got tons of it, a big old ball. Yeah, look at that. Look at the weight of the water is making it all droopy. It's a light feel. It's got some cushion to it. It does resist as you press. As you press in. The slickness is like I said, it's a light soapy, a very thin soapy kind of slickness. The glide was excellent, so it's going to excel in the slickness department, and that pretty much equates to protection. But it just feels luxurious. It's terrific. And this is a kind of a more expensive soap, but I really think it turns into a budget soap when you do the math. When you look at how many shaves it's going to give you. Because I definitely used twice as much as I needed to today. Since it's a triple milled soap, it's very concentrated. It doesn't take as much product per shave for this kind of soap. And so, if it costs twice as much as Stirling, for instance, which is a great value, but it ends up lasting you 3 times as long, then it's a better value than, that kind of computation. So, all right, really happy with the shave and the closeness. There are a couple of little hairs here that I can see some length on, but it's just not a big deal at all. All right, well, I'm going to clean up my gear. The Sharp Dressed Man was a very good match for this particular soap. 6 teaspoons of water used, about 30 seconds. I tried to equivalent 30 seconds since the puck was spinning a little bit. About 30 seconds of loading on a puck that had been soaking, that had a thin film of cold water on it for a few minutes. So those are the kind of conditions there. So here he is after a good towel stropping. He continues to widen out, and that will help him to hold enough lather and to not kill the lather, be able to hold it and mix it instead of just kind of being a stick inside of it. And then of course the splitting of the tips, can we see any that have split? It's still damp, and so a lot of times the tips will clump together on the same fiber, same bristle, so you can't see very many. But as it dries, they'll start to separate a little bit. There's a few in there. I'm impressed with this is the premium bristles from Semogue, and the quality of those bristles is really good. I haven't felt the need to look through the knot and try to find those like upside down ones that have the square tips and it's really firm. You know, I've poked around in it. I haven't found any of those in terms of feel. And so that's just what you pay for sometimes, even though this is not an expensive brush. But that's just what Semogue provides. With Omega, with this little Stirling bore, I've had to do a lot of clipping in some cases. But that's okay because they're also very inexpensive. The Stirling I got for just nothing, just like $7 or something like that. So I'm not going to try to hold it to some higher standard. After some clipping work and that sort of thing, it's going to get softer and softer as we allow those soft tips to be what's up front at the face instead of some blocky, stiff type of bristles because they were inverted or, you know, whatever. Well, I think we're done. I think we're good. It's a wonderful shave. And it's a terrific scent. I recommend the Cosmo. The brush did great. And the razor on pass 1 and 2, like I said, there was just a slight tugging, but it wasn't painful or maybe even not even uncomfortable. And so that's a win in my book. So that makes this a decent razor to use with this blade. The Vetyver open comb is better at this age of this blade, but this one's pretty good. Pretty good. Definitely looking forward to trying this guy out with other blades later on. I do wish maybe that they had reduced the. It's really a flat trajectory, isn't it? It looks like it, but because does it have a positive exposure? Yeah, I guess it does. If they were extended this comb out just a little bit more or raised it up, you know, it's got quite a gap to it actually. But because the comb is far out, relatively speaking, the gap then is not the only measure of aggression. That's a myth. A lot of guys out there will say, well, the Gillette New has a gap of 2 millimeters, and the Timeless something or other has a gap of 0.65, and you know, that kind of thing. And so they'll compare numbers between different. You can't compare numbers between even different models of the same maker. Timeless is a great example of that. You can only you can only compare if it's the same model and brand. Like the Timeless 95 versus the Timeless 68, you can compare that. You can say that the 95 is going to be more aggressive. But the bronze Timeless is a 38. And it is, numerically speaking, less than even the mild 68. But because the 68 is a stainless, the 95 is a stainless, the bronze is bronze, and it's a 38. In terms of face feel, it sits between the two, even though it's got a much lower number than either one of those. So you just make sure, I'm trying to spread the good word, the wise word. You can't compare gaps across different brands. And you take that, Timeless is such a great example because you take that same stainless head of a 68 and you make it open comb by cutting some slots in it with their geometry. for me at least, it skyrockets it way above the 95 solid bar. And so you can't only look at the number, you have to actually look at the format as well. Is it the solid bar or open comb? I can shave with the 95 solid bar every day, and I only feel just a little bit of the blade. The open comb of the 68, which is their mild gap, is way more aggressive to me than the 95 solid bar. Now, I can't imagine what the 95 open comb would be. I think that would just tear me up. Anyway, all right, it's late. Gotta go to sleep. But I hope that was good, helpful info for you. So, this is an old logo, the old style label, so I'm trying to use it up often. I do enjoy it though, so it's not a problem using it up. I think we're good. I think I've done my summary. I enjoyed pretty much all aspects of today's shave, and I hope you got something out of it too. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You take care. Good night.